What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and it is time for a little bit of Friday Night Live. All right, I'm eating my dinner a little bit. Have some summer sausage here. I just walked in the door. I've been fishing with my son all day, and we had a pretty good day. Oh, it's hotter than two blue blazes, but not too bad. So, man, oh man, how's everybody doing today? Everybody who's joining me from my podcast, welcome. Hope you're traveling safe if you're driving and listening to this. But for those of you who are watching it live, welcome, and I'm glad to have you here. What is going on, Mac Birch? Good to see you here, brother. Dave, I'm not going to butcher your last name. How's it going, man? Glad you made it. Terry Clowers, Minnesota fisherman, what's going on? Man, yeah, we fished all day today, and luckily I had a good sun shirt on, so I didn't get too burnt, so it wasn't too bad. But water temperature was 99, 98, somewhere around. No, what was our water temperature? 93. 93 is what it was today. I really didn't pay much attention to it. I just knew the fish were deep, so I spent most of the day dragging, catching little bitty ones. So, goodness. Did Wheeler go 13? I think Wheeler went 13 baits, I believe. I'm not sure of that deal. I know there was a deal between them, but I think it's just baits. Woo, goodness. All right. Matt Kelly, how you doing? Noah Hamrick, Daniel Reddy, Ken AV Guy, what's going on, man? Morning. Must have just got off work. Oh, man. We're about ready to go into work. Bass Therapy, Tim Beers. Yeah, I got your message, man. I'm excited about that. I'll have to look and see if I can get down there. You may see me sleeping in my truck somewhere, but I'm gonna try. So Monday, it's crazy. I'll get there like Sunday. We'll see what happens. But fishing with Tanner. When's the Utah kayak video gonna be up? I shot video. I did not shoot enough for a video. It was toughest fishing that I've had all year, as a matter of fact. So I was more focused on that than filming, just trying to get in, get a limit. And I only caught 4, but I ended up 7th. But I don't know. I have to go through the footage again. Maybe I can get a little something out of it, but there wasn't much. So, plus I had my back camera was messed up. Let's see. All right, announcements. We picked a winner for July last week. Michael Moon, I believe. If you're on here, I'm waiting on the website guides to give me your coupon code. I was a little bit late getting it or asking them for that, so that's my bad. But they're going to get that to me. And then this month, the giveaway, pretty simple. Go to flukemaster.com, buy a sticker. They're $5, dudes. Buy a sticker. Stick it on something. I don't care what it is. Fishing related is nice. Then take a picture of it, throw it up on Instagram, use the hashtag #StuckOnFluke, and then tag me so I can see it. And at the end of each month, I'm going to pick a winner. We're going to give them a $50 gift card to my website. I am working on a $50 gift card from Tackle Warehouse. I just got to wait for the boss lady to say it's okay. And then we pick a winner every month, and then it'll either May or probably May of next year. I'm going to take the winners from each month, and I'm going to pick a name out of the hat, and I'm going to come pick you up at your house one day and take you fishing, and we're going to go fish for 1 or 2 days. So it should be a blast. I don't care where you live in the continental United States. I'm going to come meet you. So that'll be pretty cool. All right. All right, back to the comments. Noah Hamrick, take me out to Rocky when I get out of the hospital. Let things cool down. It's been pretty miserable. Today, we had more fish just bump the worm or bump the bait and swim away than I've ever had. It was pretty tough. We did manage a few small ones. They're schooling, so I have a little bait ready for you, ready to cast to catch little schooling fish, but that's it. Hey, Gene, fishing here in Ohio Sunday. What should I try? Woo! I have not fished Ohio in the summertime. If there's grass, throw a frog, throw a lightweight Texas rig. But I don't know what it all depends on your conditions, really. The fish don't usually go super, super deep in Ohio just because the water temperature doesn't get really hot. So, goodness. Now I got cotton mouth from eating that sausage. So, Addicted to Bass, thanks for the $5, man. He said, "What's up, Fluke? Have you caught any big ones lately? I've been catching nothing but little ones. Any advice on fishing jigs?" I like being honest. I caught two over 6 pounds yesterday, and today I caught a 7 and a 7.5. Dragging really slow, but I'm fishing a tournament. Those are tournament fish, and I'm gonna wait a little while to enter them. So I hope nobody's that's fishing my tournaments watching this right now. I just don't like to scare people off because I got a pretty good limit, and if I start putting them up early on a monthly tournament, I'm afraid that people will just stop fishing, and I don't want to cause people to do that. So, D. Brasky, I don't understand that. Well, that question is commit to the G. Now I understand it. I just read it wrong. Dustin Ashby says, "Hey man, went fishing today and they would not bite anything. What do you recommend when they just aren't biting at all?" Slow way down. Slow, very, very, very slow down. I mean, just literally cast it out and crawl. Let me give you an example. Jordan caught 2 small ones this afternoon. He had moved around to the back of his Bonafide. He was sitting on his blackpacker on his crate with his feet off of the end of the kayak. That's how stable Bonafides are. Fishing, and he would cast it out, let it sink down, and he was in about 5 foot of water, and he just lay back and hold his rod in the air and sleep and just kind of relax. And all of a sudden, the worm would just start swimming off, and he'd feel it and sit up and set the hook. He probably got 6 bites, and he caught 2 of them. So, but really, really, really slow. So, G-Man's been using 13 rods and reels too. Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. 5 a.m. says, "Any beer tonight?" I have never drank beer, man. I don't drink at all. So I don't judge anybody else who does. I just, my family are full alcoholics, and it's in the blood. So my dad taught me a long time ago to stay away from it because it can cause all kinds of problems. And I do have some family members that are alcoholics, and yeah, hardly any of them have stopped. Southeast Texas here in Reppin. Thanks, Cody McCasland. Cool last name, man. Ronnie Bullard, what's going on, man? Jack McRoberts, how you doing, man? Did I say Mike McKinstry? Yeah, big Mike McKinstry. Look at that. What's going on, brother? He's a fellow YouTuber. I haven't seen. Are you still doing YouTube videos? Or are you back over on that little online channel? But let's see. Has there been times when you didn't catch fish? I was thinking about that the other day and talking to Jordan, and I have not blanked this year so far. But I spend a lot of time looking for fish, spending a lot of time on my fish finder, a lot of time moving around until I get bit. And one of those things, and I got to come up with a hashtag that is all about this, but you can't find them if they're not there. You can't catch them if you don't find them, and you can't catch them if they're not there. So you got to keep moving around until you find them. And that's kind of what I've started to do, and I have not blanked this year yet. And it's going to happen. I know it will. Good evening, Gene. I need to start a pool on how long until you pass me in the monthly, probably before the weekend is out. That means you heard what I just said. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I got over 100 inches right now. So sorry about that. All right, let's see. Thomas Bell, your opinion on these new scorpion baits that are plastered all over Facebook? I haven't seen them. I don't pay much attention. I've got off of Facebook. I get on Facebook for about 5 minutes in the day, and I get off because it pisses me off what's all going on Facebook. So many lies, so many, people just sending people in all different directions. So I just kind of keep it even keel by just staying off of Facebook. and just checking my messages and going somewhere else. So, let's see. Reggie Hayes says, big thank you, bro. You really helped me connect the dots with bass fishing. Been great fishing the last 3 years. That's awesome, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I wish I could blow your family picture up. I always love to see guys' families. But yeah, man, thanks for the comment. Let's see. Thomas Vasquez. He donated $10 and I can't find it. There it is. Thanks for the $10, brother. He says, how often do you only catch dinks? In Northern Illinois, it's mostly my deal. I still fish and love it, but I want to know if I'm doing things wrong. I can't. There are days where I catch nothing but dinks, but I'm kind of, I guess I'm an oddball. I don't know. I like catching fish no matter what size they were. I was content today with just throwing that little paddle tail swim bait, catching schooling fish. But I did slow down and drag a worm and catch 2 big ones. But goodness gracious, let's see. But yeah, dude, best thing to do, especially in the summertime, actually where you're at in Illinois, in Northern Illinois, you probably got some pretty good grass lakes. They like to go offshore, but because the water temperature is still in the 70s, they'll go shallow too. But if they're not shallow around boat docks and inside grass lines and shallow grass, then I'd go out into the deeper grass and fish that outside grass line on the deep grass. It's definitely what I would do. So, 365, thanks for the $5. He says, got 10 inches of rain in 2 days in Virginia. And any tips in going after the bigger bass? That's a lot of freaking rain. They go to the bank. You're probably going to be stuck with muddy water. They're going to go really shallow in the shallow cover. And as that water is still rising, they'll be almost have their nose on the bank. And then as it starts to fall, they're going to pull out, and they'll pull out to the next available cover or the next drop is typically what they do. Tyler Sexton, man, thanks for the $25. Man, you don't have to donate that much. Goodness. Last week you killed me. I just about died. Oh, man. He says, good evening, Fluke. Not fish related at all, but I just got my 1937 Cadillac. Oh, my gosh. We got it running, and I can't wait to get it into some car shows. Do you ever go to any car shows? Are there any around your area? I'm in East Tennessee. There are a few, but they're really, really small. They're more like clubs. There's not any big car shows. My son loves cars. He's working on a 68 VW Bug Baja. It's in the back barn. He's been working on it for about 6 months now, trying to get it running and everything. So he's the car guy. But I do love going to shows. Both my sons can look at a car from a mile away and tell you what make, model, and year it is. It's fun to watch them do that. So Asylum 404, thanks for the $10, man. He says, first, thank you. Been watching nearly everything you have and learned a ton. I've been fishing the Erie Canal and have pulled two smallmouth last weekend, a walleye yesterday, and 2 largemouth today. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. This time of the year, I usually go north, but with the COVID and everything else, I'm just going to kind of stay home and stay in the South. So Andy Crowley, thanks for the $5, man. I really appreciate it. Kyle DeLong, same with you. Thanks for the $5. Says, thanks for the video. Still haven't landed anything yet here in Knoxville, but at least I know I have a game plan. Fishing is my new coronavirus hobby. I agree, man. It's probably the best social distancing there is. That's awesome. Just take your time. Don't get overwhelmed with all the information on YouTube about fishing. So, all right, I'm gonna back up and catch some of these comments. Corey Mack, thanks for that. He says, shout out to you, to your videos, man. Thank you for the help. I appreciate it. Hey man, what do you recommend when they just aren't biting? I usually go small. Is what I do. Is I go tiny, like a Ned rig, or just a small little shaky head worm or something like that, and I slow way down. Right now we're fishing, it's super hot, and it's as slow as I can possibly fish, and I don't expect much. I don't expect a lot of bites. I just take my time, and it's miserable because you want to be able to cast a lot of cast and help find those fish. But if you speed up, you may never get bit. You may never even get looked at by a bass this time of the year. It's crazy. So Oh goodness, 220 fish on. It says it's been a while, man. I've been fishing every Friday. I hate missing these lives. That's awesome, man. It's good to be fishing on Friday nights, though. I literally was on the lake 40 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago. We were hauling butt to get back here so I could get everything set up. So I had to go all. There's no cell service on Rocky Mountain, so I had to go run and go get my son and get him to come with me, and we, do the big run around. I ran like 2.5 miles as fast as I could in that kayak. So, how many times have you fished? 225 days last year. I don't know how many I fished so far this year. A lot. But yeah, it's about 225 last year. Do you have any Texas creek fishing tips? I don't. I suck at creeks for anything other than trout up in the mountains. So let's see. Is there a difference between submerged grass and submerged weeds? No. For most people, no, it's not. Weeds, grass, it's just green stuff that's on the bottom. That's all we really pay much attention to. What are your thoughts on the Bonafide Ss 127? Cynthia, I love mine. Literally, it is the best kayak that I've been in and that I've fished out of. I spend days and days and days in it. It's comfortable to fish in. I'm sitting up high. I'm 10 inches off the deck. I can stand up and fish easily. When I get bit, I can set the hook and flop down in the seat without losing the fish, without losing tension on my rod. There's a place for everything, and it's really, really stable. So I love it. But like I tell everybody, if you're looking for a kayak, go try a bunch out before you buy one. It's the smartest thing to do. So, Adam Crowley, thanks for another $5. He says, I love the quality of your hat that I purchased. Thanks for your videos. Caught my PB in Massachusetts, 6.7. That's awesome, man. Yeah, the apparel on my website, it ain't one of those things where I'm trying to make a lot of money. I just want it to be quality. I hate to hear people say, hey, your stuff, messed up, or your stuff is junk. I hate it. And so I like the good stuff anyway. So sorry, I'm reading comments while trying to comment. Man, oh man. Stefan, thanks for the $10, brothers. I'm here. You can start now. Now, Stefan's an old buddy of mine. Real good friend of mine. I met him how many years ago? 5-6 years ago at the Bassmasters Classic. Man, we hit it off real good. Been good friends ever since. So, all right. Sean Pescatelli says, what's up, Fluke? Had something the other day. Wondering your opinion. Do you use mono or fluoro for a buzzbait? I use copolymer, which is a monofilament coated with a fluorocarbon, got a fluorocarbon coat on it. The only reason I like it is because it's pretty abrasion resistant, and it floats enough to be able to fish topwater. If you let it sit on the water long enough, it'll start to sink. But I use copolymer. I don't like mono unless it's like 25 pound, because it just stretches too much. So how long have I been with 13 fishing? 5 years, I believe. 5 years is how long I've been with 13. So what reel do I use for a Shakespeare Navigator rod? Probably the best all-around bait caster is a 7.3. 13's got the new 7.5 to 1 gear ratio reels, or 7.8 to 1. I think they're either 7.5 or 7.8. But anyway, somewhere in the 7 series or 7-speed reel is probably the best all-around one. I don't know anything about the Shakespeare Navigator. I don't know what power or action or length you have or anything else. But for a bait caster, a 7-speed is probably your best bet. So at least the best all-around one. Luke, thank you so much for all the information you give on a daily basis. I find myself referencing your videos to keep me on the right track. Keep doing what you do. Stay safe. Hoping your lines stay tight, bro. Thanks, Don. I appreciate it, man. Michael Moon, what's up, man? Just floated the creek with the folks from work today. Always relaxing. That's awesome, man. Michael's the guy that won the giveaway last week. So congratulations again, Michael. I don't know if you were on here last week when I announced it. It's a good thing because I was going to announce it halfway through and forgot. And then I remembered towards the end. If I ever fished in South Carolina, I lived in Augusta, Georgia for 15 years, and I lived on the river. So I was, 150 yards from the South Carolina line. So I fished Clark's Hill and Lake Russell and Hartwell and Murray and a few other ones, Santee Cooper, that kind of stuff. So I spent a lot of time bouncing around those lakes. I've just started fishing. I have now been fishing about 4 months here on Lake Gunnersville, and it was from watching you and your videos. No expensive kayak, but I'm out on the water. Thanks again, man. You don't need an expensive kayak as long as it's safe and it floats and you wear your PFD all the time. It's all good, man. I don't. That's the funny thing is I don't care. I don't care what you're floating in. I used to fish off of a piece of styrofoam, so whatever it floats. Let's see. Hey, Fluke, I'm from Northeast Indiana. Can you talk about hook sets? I've actually got an old video that talks completely about hook sets depending on what baits or what style of baits you're using. But I'll give you a quick rundown. If it is a Carolina rig or any rig that has the weight, several inches in front of the hook, you need a low sweeping hook set. I'm not going to tell you why. Just understand you need a low sweeping hook set. Texas rig, shaky head, jig needs to be up either over your head, or the best way is just over your shoulder at about a little more than a 45-degree angle. Powerful hook set. Frog, same thing. You got to hammer them. And with my frogs, you would think I'm trying to rip the fish's mouth off because I set the hook so hard. But anyway, that's basically what you got to do. Crankbaits, you're going to have the rod kind of low, and you just tighten into them. Same thing with spinnerbaits, but a little bit harder. You just kind of tighten into them. There's so many different things that as you spend the time on the water and as you spend your time getting used to certain baits and things like that, you will set the hook correctly just automatically without thinking about it. But that's kind of the general. Open hooks, spinnerbaits, that kind of stuff. You just tighten up really hard. Chatterbaits, same thing. Anything where you bury the hook in the plastic, like a Texas rig or anything like that, you're going to have to hammer it a little bit harder. So, have you fished magnum-sized worms like 10-inch stick baits or Strike King bull worms in the heat of the summer? I have. I do all the time. I don't really consider 10-inch magnum, to be honest with you. 12, 13, 14 inches more magnum to me because I fish a 10-inch worm all the time. Matter of fact, I just went and bought 7 or 8 bags of them today. So, but yeah, it's big worms, man. I love them. You just got to realize for some reason you got to fish them really, really slow, and the bass will hit them. If you try to fish them fast, I just have never had success on it. Somebody else might, but I haven't. So, any tips on what smaller baits to throw? Have gone out twice and not caught anything. I'm in Central Illinois. Ned rig is one, a shaky head, a drop shot. I'm trying to think of the other smaller stuff, smaller rigs. But the Ned rig is probably the best one out there right now just because it's really small, compact. You fish it on light line, and there's so many different ways to fish it that it's hard to fish it wrong. And then, but yeah, that one and the shaky head are what I'm spending most of my time fishing in the summertime. Good question. K&A Reefing says, new angler here. How are you able to tell when you have hit the bottom? So when you make a cast, watch your line, and you'll notice that your line is going out. If you lay it slack on the water, you'll see ripples coming off your line because your line is going out. When those ripples stop, your bait is on the bottom. If you got a little bit of bow in your line, you'll notice your line is going out. And when that bow goes slack, you're on the bottom. And then you'll get to the point where you can feel it. Okay, so you cast it out, you let your line fall down, and you'll be able to feel on your rod when that thing hits the bottom. And it's just a matter of repetition. That's the best way to know. I don't know any other way of being able to tell you that, but it's just when that line lays slack, it will be on the bottom. So P-line copoly is good. It's decent. The best out there is Iserline XXX Super Copolymer. They don't advertise. They don't have an advertising budget. I've used it for probably 17 years. I don't use it anymore because I'm with Seaguar and I don't have to, I don't need to use it anymore. But if you're looking for the best copolymer, it's Isoline Triple X. They're out of California. So, and you can usually get it for pretty inexpensive. Remember back in the day, I would buy a quarter-pound spool, which is a pretty big spool, fill like 10 reels for like $15. So, hey, Gene, bass fishing has been tough for the last week for me in Kentucky. I don't understand cooking 8's off at night, but anyway, less humid days. A lot of bass have been shallow under cover, but ain't biting. Any tips? Usually when they're like super shallow and they're not biting, I try to get some type of a reaction bite. Like I'll throw a soft jerk bait like a Fluke and just work it really, really hard. A weightless worm, hooked wacky style, not a stick bait, not like a Cinco, but like a trick worm, wacky style in that grass. Just jerk it and jerk it and jerk it and make it swim like this. You'll get bites a lot of time. You can always try that. So, any good cranking rods under $50? The Envy from, I think it's an Envy. Let me see, a 13 Fishing. Can't believe I'm looking this up. I feel really bad. I should know these, but it's and I have one out in let's see. The Rely, that's what it is. The Rely is a $40-$50 rod. They've got decent cranking rods. They're not awesome, but they're decent, and they'll work for you good. And the reason I say 13 is that's what I'm familiar with. I'm not familiar with a lot of other brands and other companies, but I know that 13 has some $50 cranking rods, and a lot of companies don't carry them. I know I think Abu has them, but I'm not sure. Somebody probably can tell you in the comments. So let me get a drink of water real quick. Oh goodness. All right. Andrew Watson, struggling in North Augusta with South Carolina Challenge. Any tips or spots not doing much at Stevens Creek? Heat of the summer. Clark's Hill. I don't remember ever fishing Stevens Creek, but but I know Clark's Hill like the back of my hand. And this time of the year on Clark's Hill, they're way out in the middle of the lake on humps with grass on it or humps with rocks. And they're on the ends of really long points with grass on it. So that's usually what I'm doing, and I'm dragging a Carolina rig. My favorite colors out there were always green pumpkin or green pumpkin magic, some type of a green pumpkin worm. But yeah, it's a tough time of the year to do it, especially over there where you don't get a whole lot of cool wind. So, what's my opinion on an underspin? When is a good time of the year to throw it? I usually throw underspins either when the bass are suspended, but I always have it tied on in the wintertime. So cold weather is usually when I have it tied on. So let's see. Nathan Edwards says I caught my versatile vest from a kayak last Sunday on a Ned rig with a big TRD, 19.5-inch largemouth. Wow, dude, that's awesome. Holy cow. Wasn't I talking about that last week, going to the big TRD to up the size? If you're looking for bigger fish, but you like fishing a Ned rig, that's awesome. Let's see. I'm going backwards to see if I try to pick some of the ones that I skipped. So, let's see. Well, I'm on my way to Sinclair. It sounds like I have some catching up to do, at least 13 hits worth. Oh man. Yeah. Good luck, man. It's one of those things. I'm not trying to win this month, but I am out fishing with my son, and I just happened to I only got bit like yesterday like 4 times, and today, not including the schooling fish, probably 5 or 6 times. So not a whole lot of bites. All right. How do you fish a Whopper Plopper? I've never had any luck, no matter how I change the cadence. Whew. I've got a video on it. I don't have a huge amount of confidence on a Whopper Plopper, but I can tell you that when in the fall here in the South, and as you guys get into fall up north, the same thing. When the bass move up shallow, they like to hit a buzzbait. And I'll throw a buzzbait when there's no wind on the water and in the fall. But when there's wind on the water, good amount of wind on the water, a Whopper Plopper seems to work better than a buzzbait. And it's just a steady retrieve for me. I don't do any cadences. I don't speed up, slow down. My goal is to get that thing as loud as I possibly can on the water. So throw it out, and I figure out what that speed is, and I just keep it at that speed. A lot of times, and I know Chad Hoover's really good with the Whopper Plopper, he'll throw it out and let it sit for a second and let the ripples get away from the bait. I don't know if this makes a difference or not. And then he'll start reeling it, and he catches a whole lot more fish than I do. So did you ever get a code for 1350 fishing plastics, $5.99 for a pack of Ninja at Academy? I do not have a code for 13 plastics. Once they get everything established from what the new stuff coming out and things like that, I may have to start asking if they've got a discount code. We've been talking about doing something like that through their website and stuff like that, but it just hasn't come to fruition yet. So when's the best time to use topwater baits, and what structure do you target with topwater baits? For me, the best time to fish topwater baits is when the fish are shallow and active. And the way I figure that out is just by watching. If I see any kind of fish busting the surface a lot, I usually can tell what a carp is. Carp will come completely out of the water and splash down and do all kinds of crazy, stupid stuff. And I don't pay much attention to carp. But when I see bait fish shallow and ticking a lot and, splashing a lot, and I see bass jumping and bluegill up shallow and stuff like that, I'm going to grab a topwater bait. And this time of the year, it's typically early in the morning until the sun hits the water, and late in the evening after the sun goes down is when I'll start throwing topwater baits. But as the fall progresses and the fish start to move shallow again, and it'll last a little bit longer during the day. So, goodness, it just skipped a whole bunch of comments. Yeah, I hate when it does that. Jonathan McCann says, hey, Fluke, having a very hard time getting bit on a chatterbait. How fast or slow should I be fishing it? Any tips? Thanks for all the great videos. I'm 2 months in, thanks to you, and I'm hooked. That's awesome, man. A chatterbait. The best thing, okay, typically the only time I ever throw a chatterbait is when I'm on a lake that has grass. I may not be fishing it in the grass, but for some reason, a chatterbait really works well in lakes that have grass. But what a chatterbait does really good at is it comes over top of a grass really easy, and it doesn't get hung up that much. Now, to get bit, you've got to be hitting something. You've got to be bumping into something, which sounds great until you bring it through a brush pile or a lay down, like a tree laying in the water, some type of a limb. It gets hung almost every time. So it's a give and take. But the way I fish it, if I've got grass, is I'll throw it out, I'll let it settle in the grass, and I'll start to reel it back in. If I feel it getting hung in the grass, I'll give it a quick pop, like I showed in that video I just launched yesterday, and I just keep on reeling it, and I'll try to tick that grass. If I'm just fishing the bottom, I'll throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, and then I'll just kind of reel it super, super slow, right till I start to feel the vibration, and then I'll let it drop down a little bit, because a lot of times when you start reeling, it starts to rise, and I'll let it drop down and land back on the bottom, and I'll do that 3 or 4 turns and let it fall down on the bottom, but not a cadence. Do it kind of, haphazardly, and you'll get bit a lot. So that's the biggest thing, is be bumping something. Now, if you're fishing super shallow and the fish are really active and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff, reel it really fast and watch it dart, and a lot of times you can get a reaction strike from the bass. But I've only done that probably 5 or 6 times over my lifetime, so don't count on that one. So 3 weeks into fishing, bought 2 bait casters, got good enough to no longer get bird's nests. Still haven't caught any fish, but loving it. That's awesome, Rockwell Archery. That is awesome. I love watching all you guys who've just got started. Please keep me honest. If I start to make too many videos that are really too advanced for a lot of you guys. Let me know, and I'll try to keep going back and doing some more beginner style videos. I love doing them, but a lot of times I'll get on a mindset where I got to do these certain type of videos, and it just gets kind of crazy. I am going to do some fish finder videos coming up though, so be ready for that. Zoni, what's up, man? My big bud. He says, "What's up, Fluke? Been throwing a baby and and a 6-inch bull shad lately. Oh, baby bull shad. Only catching some small fish on them so far. What's your favorite way to fish them?" I typically like to fish them most of the time really fast, just under the surface, like Mike Buca does, because he taught me how to do it. But if I'm fishing deep cover and deep structure, I'm gonna throw a fast sink, and I'm gonna reel it really, really slow. I got hit today on one, matter of fact. What was I fishing? I was fishing a 6-inch. You could tell it wasn't a very big fish, but he hammered it pretty good. But yeah, and I was reeling it just under the surface. So Joshua Jones, what's my PB? It's 10 pounds, 12 ounces. I've caught 2 fish over 10 pounds in my life. So what is a good deep crankbait rod that has minimal resistance and good hookup ratio? The hookup ratio and the resistance has more to do with the crankbait and the hooks on the crankbait and that kind of stuff. A good crankbait rod, 13 makes really good ones in every model, depends on your budget. But other good ones, the St. Croix that I used years ago, St. Croix's always made good crankbait rods. Those are the only ones I really have a lot of experience with. The Ducket rods were decent. They were just really, really soft tipped, and I didn't like them. So Tad Myers, man, thanks for the 25 bucks. Holy cow, dude. Appreciate it. He said, "Good evening, Fluke. Do you ever find yourself getting locked into certain lures, bait styles of fishing due to past success when changing things up may be more beneficial that particular day?" Not anymore. I've gotten to that point, and that's kind of was a turning point in my career when I got to the point where I realized that I needed change, and I realized quickly. I say that with this in mind. I've been so successful on one specific worm the last 3 months. I just bought 7 more packs of it today. And so it's one of those things where it's a give and take. I know that I'm going to catch fish on this worm, and I know how to fish it. But if I stop catching fish on it, I can immediately change to something else. And it's all about confidence. As soon as I lose confidence in it, I change. I don't try to get into having a favorite bait, because if I have a favorite bait, then I pigeonhole myself, and I always want to fish that bait. And I love catching them on a jig, but there are times where you don't want a jig and that kind of stuff. So yeah, don't do that, because then you lose the ability to figure the fish out. So when can I fish a wake bait? Whenever the fish are shallow and active, whenever they're schooling, which is breaking the surface out in the middle of the deep water like they're doing today on my lake, you can throw a wake bait. A lot of times that'll work. Use it to cover water that's shallow and you got a little bit of cover in it. Around bluegill beds is another time I'll throw a wake bait. So that's kind of some of the things I'll do. All right, let me go back, see if I can. Icky Freak says, "Dogs are going all the way this season. Go Dogs. Your hat sold me to your videos, so I instantly became a fan since my first watching. Now I watch every video you post by being notified." That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've been a Bulldogs fan as long as I could breathe, I think. Actually not that long, because I was 3 months old when we moved to Georgia, but as long as I can remember. I went to my first Georgia game in the 5th grade. My buddy's sister was a cheerleader there, and we got to go and hang out with the cheerleaders and hang out with the football team, and I just fell in love with the Bulldogs. And yeah, when I decided I wanted to wear the same hat in every video, there was only one hat that I wanted to wear. So Mark, he says, "Hey Fluke, what's your opinion on lithium battery for kayak? Are they good for trolling motor?" Yes, they are. I don't have one. I'm trying to save my pennies, nickels, and dimes for one, because they're not cheap. But everybody that all the big guys that I know that have them, all the top kayak anglers in the tournament circuits. They all have them and love them. It just saves time or saves weight, and they charge fast and they last for a long time. So definitely the way to go if you can afford it. So Thomas Bell says a lot of the lakes here in upstate South Carolina have large areas of rock bottoms. What would be the best throw around these areas? Rocky bottoms, I like to throw a Texas rig and a Carolina rig and a jig, something I can drag on the bottom because there's not going to be a lot of silt there. The bass will hang around the edges of it, and they'll hang around high spots on it, or the places that I try to target. So trailers on a chatterbait. I fish 3 different trailers. The new 13 fishing, the jerk, is surprisingly awesome. And when I say that, it surprised the heck out of me. It was just the matter of fact, I ran out of my favorite paddle tail swim bait, which was the Rage swimmer that I used, the 4-inch Rage swimmer. And that's all I had in my boat. And I started using them and they were wrecking it. So, and then the other one is a Rage Menace. I'll throw that one on there. Other than that, there's the Blade Minnow from Strike King, and then a Fluke, not the Super Fluke, not the Super Fluke Junior, but it's called the Fluke by Zoom, is another good trailer. So Shane Kelly, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the comment. He says, Mark D says, he says, man, great about chatterbaits being, been using them for 2 months, no bites, but thanks for the tips. And I always fish them in grass. That's awesome, man. Gary, Fluke, do you use the double fluke, and how do you minimize line twist? I haven't used it in a while since I left Augusta, because that was like a staple fishing for those school and bass that are chasing blueback herring on Clark's Hill. But you don't get line twist when you rig it correctly. You tie your long leader. Okay, so what a double fluke rig is it's a rig with 2 flukes on separate hooks. So you tie a long leader and you tie a short leader, and then you take a swivel and you slide it on your main line and tie the short leader to that swivel, and then tie a swivel to another second swivel to the end of your main line and tie the long leader onto that. And your hooks are, of course, on the ends of those leaders. And so you've got about an 18 to 20 inch leader and about a 5 to 8 inch leader, and you jerk it around, and then those will they'll do like this in the water, and they'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. And then when you bring them back in, they may be twisted up, but you just shake them and they come untwisted really, really easy. So that's how you rig them. Don't do it on a 3-way swivel. That sucks. It will screw it up every time. So, oops, sorry, Mark, I almost banned you. I didn't mean to hit that button. Mark says, can you do a video on batteries for a kayak? It'll be a while. I'm working on batteries. I'm working on a battery deal from one company and another company. I don't know what's going on with batteries, but anyway, so yes, I can, because I've used a bunch of different ones over the last year. I have some that I like, and I have some that I don't like, and there's certain reasons and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to get away from lead acid batteries, but right now that's all I can afford to buy. But most of the batteries that I have, I've bought myself, so I can give you an honest opinion about them. Nobody's paying me to use batteries at this moment. So remember, I do this for a living, so I have to get paid. Do I fish any tiny child rig? I did a video about it, and I didn't realize it was called a tiny child rig. It's actually called a chicken rig, is what most people call it. And yeah, I fished it, but it's been a while. Double fluke rig, aka donkey rig. Yes, you're right. Other people call it a donkey rig. Let's see, I'm fishing the Okmulgee River tomorrow. Similar to the Flint, is there a way to protect an aluminum Dawnboat from the rocks? Not that I know of. Just don't hit it hard. You're going to get scratched up. It's one of those things. That's why we kayak fish them. I've kayak fished the Okmulgee several times, and it is a great one to do. If the water's up, you should be fine. If it's down, which it probably is because it's summertime, you're going to get stuck a lot. Just be ready to get out and get that John boat off of the rocks. So, Casey Watson, a kayak question. He says, what would you suggest to a new kayak tournament fisherman to eliminate them from carrying every bit of tackle they own because they are afraid they won't have what they will need? You got to limit yourself to the size of the boxes and the number of boxes. I have one main terminal tackle box. It's about this big. It's a Plano, one of the new Plano edge boxes. Love it. But it's a small one, and it's got all the terminal tackle, but just a small portion of what I normally would carry in my bigger box. Then I carry 3 other Plano waterproof boxes, and I stock them according to the lake I'm fishing. And when they're full, they're full. I don't carry any more tackle. And then I'll carry 2 of those black KVD worm bags with worms at it, maximum. But I carry 1 most of the time, and that's it. That's all I carry. And 5 rods, maybe 6 if I have a special reason for it, but mostly just 5 rods. So I limit the number of boxes, and I limit the size. And if it don't fit, it don't go in there. So, and I don't take it with me. Let's see. Let's see. What are we going on? Alex, what's going on? Alex says, local lakes been sprayed a few times for vegetation issues. Any info on how fish will react? Thanks. I've never had good luck on lakes where they've sprayed a lot. I try to find the areas that they haven't sprayed. It usually takes, from what I've read and my own experience, it usually takes about a week to a week and a half to maybe even 2 weeks for the bass to get right after they've sprayed grass. So Sam H, man, thanks for the $5. He says, when's the next time you're at Rocky Mountain PFA? I was there today. I was there yesterday, and I'll probably be there on Monday. I don't know if I'll be there tomorrow. We haven't decided yet. If I don't have anything to do tomorrow, which I doubt it because I've been fishing for 4 days straight, then I'll be over there tomorrow. So I got to get some work done around the house. J Dubs, what do you recommend as far as fishing type style from muddy Louisiana bayous with soft muddy bottoms with leaves, etc.? I like fishing Louisiana lakes, and I'm going to tell you the reason why is because there's so much mud. You know the bass are going to be on hard cover. You know they're going to be on the base of cypress trees, or they're going to be on the edges of grass suspended up a little bit. They're not going to be down on the bottom because they don't like to breathe in that silt. You know, any little slight movement of their tail or their gills kicks silt off the bottom when they're close to it, and they don't like to get that stuff into their gills. And so they're going to get up away from it and get into the grass to, let the grass filter out the silt. So the places you're going to look for is if there's a drop, they're going to be on the edge of that drop. They're going to be on the hard cover like logs and cypress trees, and they're going to be in grass. And they like to get in the holes of the grass. That's what I love about Louisiana. It's very simple. You don't have a whole lot of other options. And you don't have to go out deep looking for rock piles and that kind of stuff. That just doesn't happen. So, Joshua Jones, where do you fish the most? Well, since COVID, I've been staying kind of close to home here in Georgia. I love to fish Texas. I love to fish the Tennessee River, anywhere along the Tennessee River. In September, I usually end up going to Minnesota and fishing just because it's a lot cooler there, and the bass are still shallow, and I don't have to go deep, and I don't have to put up with the temperatures like what we had today, 95 and 100% humidity. So I need to get up there in September again. I don't know if that's going to happen with all the COVID issues, but we will see. Favorite fluorocarbon line. Also, what's a good rod specs for deep diving crankbait? So, disclosure, I've been sponsored by Seagar for 3 years now, but I've used Seagar since 2006. I remember because I won a tournament on using the first spool of Seagar I've ever bought. So it was in 2006. And so I've got a lot of confidence in it, and I love to use Abrase X fluorocarbon. Abrase X is higher cost, but it's very, very problem free and very abrasion resistant, and it's great for crankbaits. Good specs for a deep diving crankbait rod. I like a 7'11" medium heavy moderate deep cranking rod. Okay, most crankbait rods that are 7'10", 7'11" are specifically made for deep crankbaits. So that's definitely what I look for. What are you using standing timber with water 12 to 18 feet deep? So if I'm fishing a lake that's full of timber, my earliest memories as a bass fisherman were on a lake at a public fishing area right down the road from my parents' house called Charlie Elliott. And Charlie Elliott had a lake called Fox Lake, and it was a flooded forest is all it was. And so the biggest thing is you've got to almost block the wood out, block all the trees out of your sight, and just don't think about them until you figure out what the bass are holding on, or what, if they're holding on drops or points or high spots or humps and that kind of stuff, and then fish the timber that are in those areas. They're not just going to be haphazardly in the timber. They're going to be at a specific depth. They're going to be at a drop, specifically a creek channel, because a lot of times, because you're in standing timber, you're in shallower water. Fish the trees that are along the creek channel and along the points, and you'll catch more fish. Ignore the dead stuff, not dead stuff, the flat stuff, you know, where there's no changes and things like that. So goodness gracious, I'm losing my voice again. What's your favorite 10 to 13 inch worm, and what size and style hook do you like? I have never tried that size, but would like it. A Zoom Old Monster is my go-to worm. The big squirm from 13 is really, really good. It's got a lot of tail action to it, and I've actually run out of most of my big squirms, and I got them like 4 months ago. So definitely that's some of the stuff those are my two favorites. I've been trying a big, huge 14-inch worm or something from Yum. I haven't caught anything on it, but I just love throwing it because I know the only thing that's going to bite it is going to be a big one. And the hook, what are they called? It's the Gamakatsu G Finesse heavy cover flipping hook, and it's a thin wire hook, but it's got the material it's made out of and how it's made. It doesn't have any flex to it, so you can get by with fishing it. I wouldn't fish it on braid because it still might flex out because it is a thinner wire. Just contradicted myself, but you'll understand if you ever do that. Fluorocarbon and copolymer is what I'd fish it on, 20 pound, 15 pound. But it's a really good straight shank hook, and they're expensive. They're about $1 a piece. Each hook is about $1, but I love them because you get really good hook sets, even if you're in a kayak, and you know there's issues with hook sets with kayaks because they go towards the fish. But it's just a really, really good hook. I just bought 3 new packs today. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. When is the Kayak Motor Guide X3 trolling motor coming out? I don't know. It's supposed to be in the next couple of months, but they're waiting on like a couple of parts. They do all the assembling stuff in-house, and they cut the shaft down, and they have all that machinery right there in-house, but they're waiting on a few of the parts and getting a couple of the bugs out of it. Not out of the trolling motor, but out of the machine itself, to get it to cut down to 36 inches. So that I do know, but it's going to be soon, dude. Very soon. Any tips for getting into fishing as a teen? Can I fish pro-am tournaments? You sure can. Check the rules. I know KBF, Kayak Bass Fishing, has a rule about minors and having a parent with them and that kind of stuff. But check the rules and make sure that you're able to do it, and you don't have to have a parent or a guardian with you, or so on and so forth. There's always like local pot tournaments you can jump in. I remember Ryan back in the day, he was 15, 16 years old, fishing these electric only John boat tournaments. And his mom would tow him around, had a trailer, had a 14-foot John boat, and she would tow him in her, I think it was a Buick, tow him around to these tournaments and drop him in the water and then come back and pick him up at the end. So, dude, it's a blast. It's tons and tons of opportunity for you as a high schooler to fish. How do massive 35-degree temp swings affect bass? Not good. They don't like change. Bass don't. So the day after will be just fine, and 2 days after will suck, and the 3 days after will suck, and then maybe the fourth day they'll start getting right again. Where can I find those spotted and shoal bass on the river as far as patterns go? You'll find the spotted bass if you're talking about the Okmulgee, you'll find the spotted bass in like the deader, deeper water and around the edges of the shoals, and you'll find the shoal bass in the shoals. So in the rapids. And you're using moving baits. Dude, don't worry about dragging something small, something slow. Use moving baits and you'll catch them, because because of current and stuff like that, they're opportunistic feeders. If something comes by them, they're going to hit it. So, and be very, very good to those shoal bass. It's a species that we need to protect because there's not a lot of places that hold them. And so catch one, get a picture, get it in the water fast. Take really good care of those shoal bass. So T. Miller, hey Gene, I've been trying to learn offshore fishing this summer. I have an older Lowrance 4 chirp on my Dawnboat. When I see fish or brush piles, how do I know where to cast to hit those targets? Typically, if you see them on, like, I'm assuming since it's an old Lowrance 4 chirp, you're using standard sonar. Standard sonar is the signal is a cone, and it's not a wide cone. It's literally, it's not very wide at all, depending on your depth. But it's directly under your transducer. So wherever you got your transducer mounted, that cone, like, let me give you a for instance, 10 feet deep, it's only about this wide, maybe this wide. Okay. So everything you see is directly under the boat. That offers a challenge. So what you do is when you identify a fish on your fish finder, mark that spot, pull out away from it and cast back to it. If it's like 12 feet or deeper, they're still going to stay there. It's not going to spook them much. If they're shallow, just mark that spot and come back in about a half hour and fish it. So that's the biggest thing. It's directly under your transducer. Side scan, that's why it's so valuable, is because it scans out away from your boat. And so, but it's expensive, and you got to get big screens, and it gets stupid expensive. But that's why side scan is so nice, is because you can see outside, well away from your boat. You can cast in that direction. So. Let's see. I'm going to answer a few more questions. You guys don't forget, go to my website, order a sticker, $5 sticker. Get that sticker in, put it on something fishing related, take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, hashtag stuck on Fluke. I forgot about what it was. I was trying to find the banner. Use a hashtag stuck on Fluke, and you'll be entered into win a $50 gift card from my website. And like I said earlier, probably a $50 gift card from Tackle Warehouse. So, and that may get better and better. And then the winner of each month gets put into the pot. And next May, I'll pick a winner and take you fishing. So anyway, all right, let's get back to the comments. What aluminum boat size would you recommend for Kentucky Lake? I can be at Paris Landing in less than an hour, but I've not had a boat I would be comfortable in a Kentucky Lake. Dude, Kentucky Lake can get downright freaking dangerous. I broke my old aluminum boat back when I had that Triton aluminum. I broke it on Kentucky Lake. Went into a pocket, fished for a couple hours, came back out. The wind had picked up to about 15 miles an hour out of the north, and it was dangerous getting back to the boat ramp. It took like 2.5, 3 hours to go 5 miles. So what I would recommend is if you have any boat, whether it's aluminum or fiberglass, check the weather. Make sure you're not going to have north or south winds that are 15 miles an hour or stronger, and be safe. Now, the smallest one I would have on Kentucky Lake on a safe day is a 19-footer, okay, with a good motor and make sure everything is up to date. That's just a dangerous lake because it's straight, and you get those straight line winds from north or south, and it can get stupid dangerous. So, whoo. All right. How can I build confidence in fishing jigs? I never get bit on them. First of all, always fish them on hard bottom. Okay. If you're dragging and it feels like it's dragging through soft mud, you're in the silt and you're not going to get bit. Hard bottom is where you can fish a jig. Number 2, take only a jig. Have a brown one, have a green pumpkin one, and have a black and blue one, but don't take anything else but 3 colored jigs and go fish until you start to catch fish on one. I don't care if it takes a day, a week, 20 days. I'm serious. That's how you're going to get confidence in one, and just fish the snot out of it. So, goodness. But yeah, definitely fish a jig that way. All right. One last question. Bryce Stanton, what's a good knot for braided line? The only knot that I think anybody ought to tie on braided line when you're tying braid to your lure is a Palomar knot. I've never had one slip out on me. I've never had an issue with a Palomar knot. I do not tie a Palomar knot with fluorocarbon or copolymer. I do an improved clinch, but for braid, always a Palomar knot. All right, guys. Well, sorry I wasn't able to get to everybody's questions. I really appreciate you guys joining me. Be sure to do the stuck on fluke deal. Dude, I'm going to have so much fun taking somebody fishing one day. It's going to be a blast. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go out and catch some fish and have a great day. We'll see you.